We just finished watching The Haunting of Hill House.
And we'll be back with our review after this.
Hi folks, welcome back to Pop Pop Fizzle. I'm Jeff.
I'm Heidi.
And we're here to give you our review for Netflix's original The Haunting of Hill House. Now if that name sounds familiar, you know Heidi and I did a reaction to that.
Just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. The trailer that Netflix released for that. At the time, I think we were pretty solidly convinced it was something we wanted to check out.
Yeah. Like, when we first went into it, we were like, oh, another horror movie, whatever. And we were pleasantly surprised that it was a series. And what we saw of it in that trailer looked really good. So, yeah, we were definitely interested in watching it.
And I think at the time, I even confused it with The House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
Which is a completely different thing altogether.
Totally different.
The Haunting of Hill House is actually based on the novel from the 1950s by Shirley Jackson. It's been adapted into different films and different things. I remember most vividly The Haunting, which had Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones and some other people. I want to say that was like late 90s.
I think I was vaguely aware of it from pop culture, but I don't think I've ever seen any movies actually that dealt directly with it.
And certainly there were elements of Hill House that we got in this show that were similar to some things that we saw in those interpretations. However, this series is certainly its own thing as well. We are going to do this a little differently. We do want to talk in depth about the show, but we also want to give you a chance, if you haven't watched the show yet, to enjoy it on your own without us spoiling anything. So we're going to do sort of a non-spoiler section here at the opening, and we're going to talk about our thoughts and what we enjoyed about it without spoiling anything. Then we'll give you proper warning so that if you haven't watched the show, you can leave and come back. If you have watched the show after that little break, then we will jump into spoilers and talk full spoiler discussion there. So, non-spoiler side of things. Did you have any expectation going into this?
Not really. I mean, like I said, we enjoyed the trailer, and I was looking forward to hearing. Now, the thing is, you know, that Netflix does is they drop the entire series, and there are people who do binge, and we like to binge, but, you know, my work schedule doesn't really allow me to do that. So, I had already seen that people were really enjoying it. So, again, like I had mentioned, like with a movie that I'd watched a while back, it actually hit a cross-section of people that I wouldn't expect to enjoy this sort of series at all. So I was really interested in it because so many people were talking about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we watched this a little bit differently than usual, mainly because, as Heidi mentioned, her work schedule is a little bit difficult to work around sometimes when it comes to binging shows. So we watched the first episode together. We thought we were watching the second episode together.
We wound up watching
But we mistakenly watched the third episode instead of the second episode. Then Heidi started her work schedule, so I watched the rest of the series on my own and made my way through. About midway through that, my oldest daughter decided that she was going to watch it. So I began to rewatch things I had already watched with her. And then after that, I would go and watch the episodes that I hadn't watched yet. So I was watching all like in these different cycles. And then, of course, by the time you were done, you wanted to watch the rest. So I watched again with you.
Yep.
So all in all, I've seen the series 3 times.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's actually really cool that it works like that. Aside from the beginning and the last episode, maybe
which are kind of bookends,
and maybe even the last, like the second,
the
last
2 episodes. Yeah,
last 2 episodes. It's like a serial, so you don't necessarily need to see it in order, but it helps. And so I feel like we didn't really lose anything for watching the 3rd episode before watching the 2nd episode, and it was really great because all of those focused on different individuals, and we could see maybe sometimes some similar scenes or some same scenes, but from different perspectives. So it was really cool watching it that way.
Yeah. This series was directed by and I think show run by Mike Flanagan. I knew the name was familiar, but I had to look him up. The actress who plays Theo, her name's not jumping into my brain at the moment, and we're filming with my phone, so I don't have it to check. I had seen her in a movie called Hush, which I really liked a lot. You did not see that one. But I enjoyed Hush thoroughly, and it was one of those surprising things where I just like pulled it up on Netflix on a whim or something and watched it. Really enjoyed it. And so seeing her again in this was cool. And then I made the connection that actually she's married to Mike Flanagan. So
Yes,
he worked on that as well. So they have that connection. And then she, I think, co-wrote the movie that he directed, Oculus, which I really liked, starring Karen Gillan. So, so definitely a good sort of history of enjoying the work that they put out. Just didn't know it going in until I got, watching the credits more and realized that. I felt like, and I've said this to several people since I watched, especially since I finished the show, that I feel like this was a series that very easily, in the wrong hands, could have gone off the rails.
Really, yeah.
One way or the other. Either into melodrama.
Or too jump scary.
Or dialogue sometimes in movies that have a lot of family members can be troublesome. If you don't have a good writing staff. And so there were a lot of elements that I felt like could have gone really wrong that did not go wrong here, that were all handled
really well.
with aplomb. And I thought that it was just...
spot on.
Yeah, I mean, all the way through. Mm-hmm. And there was never a point in an episode in which I felt somebody was phoning in their part, or that I felt like the writing let me down, or that I felt like the performances... together, the interactions, the chemistry, the continuity. Continuity is important to me.
Yeah,
there's a lot of moving back and forth between times, so continuity was vital to this.
Yeah.
And all of that was handled well.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were points in time where we said we felt like we were watching movies. That it was just really done that well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I continue to refer, as I was talking to people about it, I continue to call it The House on Haunted Hill, and then I'd have to correct myself and change it because that confused me the whole time. Not because I confused the stories, but just because the titles were tripping me
Too many H's.
Yeah, pretty much.
Too many H's.
So we, again, I ended up seeing it 3 times all the way through. You saw it 1 time all the way through. We just finished yesterday. What were your feelings just overall? I mean, as far as the story itself, from beginning to end?
It was very compelling. There was not any part of it that I was like, why are we talking about this? Why is this here? There was no point in time where any of it dragged. It was all vital and it was riveting. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. There was never a point where I was like, not interested or not trying to watch it.
Yeah, I also didn't feel like they treated the audience as dumb.
No.
They didn't
never.
Spell things out or hold our hand through things. They presented us with information, with moments. Even I had a conversation with one of the baristas at my local Starbucks who I chat with about films and stuff. Shout out to Sam if he's watching. We were talking about the one jump scare that was kind of in it. That was an actual jump scare. And I won't say anything about the scene now, but we'll discuss it during the spoiler thing. Wasn't even a jump scare in the modern sensibility. There was no buildup of music. There was no loud sound effect. There was anything. There was just the moment.
Yeah. And
because it was just the moment, because it was handled so well, I didn't even mind that it was a jump scare.
Yeah. No.
Because it was well earned and it was handled so well. So yeah, I felt like just from the look of everything
the music
to the acting, Carly Gugino turns in a great performance here.
Yes.
In this, we liked her, or I did. You didn't watch. Did you watch the Gerald's Game? You did.
I did watch Gerald's Game.
Yeah, we liked her in that as well. Thought she did a great job there. So it was cool to see her in this again. And I think she's one of those people that doesn't get as much credit as she deserves for her performances. She, if her character had not worked. In this whole thing would have fallen apart. Yeah. But everybody, like she was central, but everybody from the kids to the adult versions of the kids, from the past version of the mom and dad to the present day version of the mom and dad, all of the sort of actors moving in and out of this framework of this overall story just really brought their A game and with subtlety. And it just felt really solid. And the dialogue, which I mentioned earlier, there were so many instances where the dialogue just seemed right for a family. The shorthand that a family has with each other, the ridiculousness of a family and going from one emotion to another, on a dime when you're in that moment and you're just kind of ready to be ticked off at somebody or whatever. And there were so many of those things that felt real and right on the money. So yeah, I have recommended this series already to numerous people. We just haven't been able to film something to recommend it to you.
My fault. Didn't get to finish it till yesterday.
It's okay. So now we've come to the point, before we jump into spoiler discussion, we do want to rate it. We always do this with our reviews. We do it with movies. We've done it, I think, with Jessica Jones and some other things that we talked about.
This is true. Okay, yeah, for full series, yes. For full
and we
series.
will be reviewing Daredevil Season 3. That'll be our next video, so be sure and come back for that. But yeah, so for you, the way we normally rate these, if you watch any of our movie reviews, is that we do a pop or a fizzle. So fizzle means don't bother. Pop means definitely check it out when you can. And the double pop normally, in most cases, would mean rush out to the theater and go and see it. Now, this is not in the theater. This is streaming. So in this case, the double pop will mean stop what you're doing before you watch anything else. Binge this thing now and enjoy it. So, so given that criteria,
it's a double pop. Totally a double pop. I was definitely feeling it when I wasn't watching it, because I wanted to know what was happening next. This is definitely bingeable. If you can only fit in a couple of episodes a night, still binge it over the series of a week, because it is worth watching and finishing, because it's just that good.
Yeah. It's going to be a double pop for me as well. Like I said, I've already recommended it to several people.
You've seen it 3 times.
I've seen it 3 times, and I didn't get tired of seeing it. So, very solid. And, on the channel when we do horror reviews, normally they're either good or bad, very few or anywhere in between. We've had the privilege to see some really good ones
this year,
this year and in recent years, but even before we had the channel, we saw some good ones that we could discuss, and this is one of those that, it's almost hard to even classify it as horror, because it has horror elements. But it's also very much a family story. And it's also very much a story of broken people trying to heal. And there are all these sort of elements that are wrapped in that make it so compelling and so solid. And if you took away an element, you'd still have a compelling story. It just wouldn't be as compelling as it is in its finished form. So we highly recommend this for you, and we hope that you will check it out. It is all 10 episodes up on Netflix now. We are not being paid by Netflix. That would be sweet, but that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
But this is just our opinion. And again, take it or leave it. Mileage will vary. If you like some of the things we've recommended before, maybe you'll take a shot on this and like it as well. But yeah, that's our thoughts on this. Now, we're going to take a little bit of a break. I'll put a timer or something down here. We'll let you know before we talk spoilers. But if you haven't watched it already, go ahead and stop here. Watch the series. Come back to this. And watch the rest of this video at that point. Now, while we have them on hold waiting for the spoiler discussion, we wanted to tell them about Shadow Plays, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so if you don't know, if you haven't, I think I've mentioned it a few times on the channel, when I'm not in front of the camera and talking to you about movies, I'm writing. And my latest book is coming out November the 19th. It's called Shadow Plays. It's a collection of 15 short stories. I believe the subtitle of the book is actually 15 Stories of Darkness and Light. And it's a set of stories I'm super proud of. They range from things written as far back as 2009 that I didn't have a home for, to things that I literally just finished before this stuff had to go to the editors and that sort of thing. So, super proud of this, and we want to give you a chance to kind of jump on and experience that if it's something that you're interested in. Maybe you're looking for a gift for a family member over the holidays, or maybe you're looking for just something as you're traveling over the holidays. Maybe you'll want something to have with you on a train or a plane or what have you. So right now you can pre-order. The book will come out the 19th.
Yes.
And you can pre-order the book through my website. I'll put the link right down here for you, and it'll be in the description below as well. If you use the promo code SHADOW, which is the first part of the title, Shadow Plays, if you use SHADOW as your promo code, you'll get 20% off the retail price. And if you'd like me to sign it, there's an option there for that as well. Super proud of these stories. You've been a part of all of this behind the scenes. Couldn't do what I do without her being a part of it anyway. Constantly bouncing things off her, constantly reading her things. She, seldom gets to read anything for herself. I'm always reading things to her.
I've heard this entire book.
Yeah. But was just really pleased to get it done, and just got the proof copy today.
Yay!
Been looking through it today and making sure that it's ready to go into your hands November 19th. So you can pre-order for that 20% off now through November 19th. At that point, it will be available on Amazon and Kindle, but they do their own promotion, so I don't know what they'll have going on over there. But yeah, definitely check that out if that's something that you're interested in. Now, if you're still with us, we're going to jump into a little bit of spoiler discussion. We're not going to go long, but we do want to talk about some of the things that we really appreciated about this that we couldn't really do without talking spoilers. So this is your last warning. If you haven't watched the show, hop off, go check it out, and then come back and watch this part.
Yep.
Okay? This point?
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Yeah. Okay, so who would have thought General Akbar would show up in this? No, Admiral Akbar. Sorry, I know. She's so ashamed. I knew he was an admiral. I just downgraded him somehow. I demoted him in my head.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't either.
Okay.
Grievous was the general.
Oh.
Akbar was the admiral.
Yes.
A-A-G-G. I should have known this.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so we talked about dialogue, and I think one of my favorite lines from it was somebody talking about Theo said she was basically a clenched fist with hair. That was great.
Yeah, that was a good dialogue. Also, Theo saying she was taking a drink every time she wanted to punch somebody. And then later on, when her older brother Steve said something kind of rude to her, she went, punch, took a drink.
Yeah.
That dialogue was good. Also, Cheryl's "you suck" at apologies, which I'm paraphrasing for family content. But,
yes.
Yeah, you suck at apologies was pretty funny. But all of that dialogue between the family members was so real to me, because when you're family, there are certain things that you can say because you know that you'll be okay. And then there's certain ways that family can hurt you or offend you in ways that other people simply could not. Mm-hmm. All of their sort of broken history that comes out as you watch the series, it all builds to the point where all of their relationships with each other are very believable.
Yes.
Steve being the big brother who was constantly trying to be the good son and the good big brother, and who failed at it so miserably, mainly because Dad let him down, or he felt like he did, and he couldn't really pick up the pieces from that, and just kind of became a big brother in name only. Wasn't really
present. Really.
Yeah, Cheryl's sort of need to be perfect, and her kind of quest for perfection, and the toll that had on people.
Yeah.
Luke's drug addiction, Nell's mental issues, which were based on something that real that had happened to her and to Luke, but so misunderstood because of that, and feeling like she didn't fit in the world.
Yeah.
But all of those things and how they affected the characters and how that made them interact with each other in this really kind of broken way seemed very real.
And it was one of those things though, like the one thing I was like, that I questioned when they were talking about, it's where they grew up and how they grew up. And it's like, the only thing that I questioned was that how long were they actually in this house? Not long.
Not long.
Like maybe a month.
Yeah.
But it impacted their entire lives, like everything about it. So
yeah, and I think that's sort of the notion of that house being so wicked and so haunted that it continued to haunt them long after they left it, that it continued them on the path that it set them on.
Well, I mean, something happened there that was completely irreparable. Thank you.
Yeah, and that too, I love, as far as the writing, again, I love the notion of Nell saying, it's a twin thing. I can feel, when he was coming down, I felt sick. I felt all the things that Luke was feeling. I felt the withdrawal symptoms or whatever, and I guess he's okay because I felt okay. To then knowing that she's dead and having Luke saying he feels cold and he feels stiff and he feels, so he's feeling that. He's feeling her death. And all of that stuff. Their relationship I thought was really sweet and handled so well. We didn't really get to see them together as adults.
No.
But their relationship was felt anyway, and then just the stuff between the little kids, the little boy saying, "Don't ever do that again. Don't ever scare me." I'll never leave you. I'll never leave you. Those things. It was all so sweet. All those kids did such a great job with their acting. Those two
kids were just cute, adorable, so cute.
Yeah.
And so. So 6. You get child actors in to play characters, and you need them to be what they're supposed to be. And you can either get really great performances, or you can get nothing. And those kids were so good.
Yeah, and genuine. Not like I'm going for the Oscar, or I'm reading this the way I would read for a commercial. It was all very natural, and you have to feel like some of that was the production and how they handled all those things. They had to have worked with the whole cast on. There was continuity between versions of characters, whether it was the kids or the dad, who's played by Timothy Hutton,
as the older dad,
as the present day dad, Henry Thomas as the dad in the past, and Hugh. Yes, that's his name. And I noticed that at one point, the present day Hugh tells his son Steve, fly safe.
You fly safe.
Yeah, you fly safe, which was a very specific sort of thing. It's a very character driven sort of thing. Not everybody says something like that. Heidi and I have our things that we say to each other when we're leaving. I always, tell her to drive safe when she leaves or whatever.
Tell him to be careful.
Be careful. We have those things, and so he says that to Steve, the Timothy Hutton version of the character. But then we see in the past, and another thing that Henry Thomas's version of that same character tells his wife to fly safe. It's a very specific character thing.
You fly safe.
And so those sorts of continuity things matter, especially in a story like this where you're moving around.
Oh my gosh!
So much. If continuity breaks down, you really lose something.
Yeah, you lose the story. You lose the audience if it doesn't work out.
But you felt the connections between the children and the adults, so much so that when we get to, I guess it was the next to last, or maybe the two from the end or whatever, where we focused on the mom story, Olivia's story. I was right, Olivia?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, I've seen it 3 times. You'd think I'd remember the name. Olivia's story. That when the children sit up and are talking about, what if you hurt us? What if you, or whatever, and the little boy's like, what if I feel so lost that I put poison in my arms or whatever? You felt the connection between that little boy and the Luke that we had seen in the present day.
Yeah.
And it's there were moments in this which made me feel emotion when Luke is giving the eulogy.
No.
For Nell, I felt that it felt so real and so sweet of him to say, I was born 90 seconds before her, but she was always my big sister.
Yeah.
And likewise, just when we were seeing the family reacting to him talking, when she said, "Go in there and bring my brother out." Or whatever, the mom, Olivia, or the ghost of Olivia, or the imagined form of Olivia saying "Atta girl," that was more the real her than what we had seen, and probably because
later on,
right. And so just so many little good character beats. I love too, one of my favorite scenes, and it choked me up to see it, just because as a dad I know kind of the feeling of helplessness when you can't help your kid through something, but also the desire to, and the desire to fix things. So Hugh's I can fix this was a constant connection for me, but also him, adult Steve, who certainly capable of handling a lot more than young Steve could, but his dad's still saying, look at me, and keeping his eyes off of all the scary stuff that was happening around. Stay focused here, stay with me. Yeah. This is where you're safe. I got you. That sort of feeling just really connected with me as a dad. I loved all of that.
And then even so we have a large family cast, and we have the young children and the adult children, but we also have some supporting characters too, the Dudleys especially, and because Jeff had seen it before, he had mentioned to me, hey, we don't really see Mr. Dudley say much, but watch this. And so it was a scene that, I would watch, of course, anyway, but it would, I paid especially good attention to it, and, Jeff wasn't wrong. This, I don't know the name of the actor.
It's Robert Longstreet, I think. Robert or Richard Longstreet.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in things before, but his, again, like Heidi's saying, he kind of moved in and out of different episodes, and we didn't get a lot from him. But the reason you hire an actor of his caliber is because that in that episode that's coming, he's going to have to deliver this speech where he talks about growing up in that house and its effect on him and its effect on his wife and the loss of his the loss of his first child and all of that. And so you need somebody that can sell that moment. And he does. And he seems so genuine and so likable and so broken and hopeful at the same time, and just he wants to help Hugh protect his family.
Yeah.
And you get all that from him. And if you had a lesser actor in that performance, you wouldn't buy it in the way that you're meant to.
Right.
And the same goes for pretty much all of the, we get the standout sort of side character from me in present day was Kevin. Cheryl's husband.
Yeah. Poor Kevin.
Yeah, poor Kevin because he has to deal with Cheryl. But also the whole family, and he's trying so hard to just maintain peace and take care of everybody.
Take care of everyone because nobody's doing that for anyone else right now because they're in the middle of all of their grief. So. And
sometimes families have that one person. It's like the way that they cope and the way that they help is just by
becoming a waiter.
Yeah, well, by running around and taking care of people and making sure their basic needs are met while they're dealing with other things. And I mean, and it's a very real life thing. We go and we sometimes visit with members of Heidi's family or something, and Heidi wants to catch up or whatever, or a friend that she hasn't seen in a while, or I do. And when that happens, Heidi watches the kids so that I can have the conversation I'm trying to have. And she runs around and makes sure that they're not getting in trouble, or I do because she's in the middle of something and catching up. That's a normal family thing. And for Kevin, it's just they're working through grief. They're doing so. So I'm going to make sure you need a drink, you need food, can I get you something? Do you want to sit down? Do you want to, and I think that's a very normal...
That's a normal thing.
When you want to be there and help, but you don't really know what to do except to take care of a basic need. And, so all of those things in ways big and small were handled so well. The set design for all of that.
Oh my gosh, just the filming, the framing,
the colors, the framing of several shots, were just stood out to me.
So good. And you watched, I think it was, either the next to last episode or the last episode where it was Mrs. Dudley and you saw her in frame and you're like, oh, I don't think I noticed that before, but I saw it immediately. She stood right in front of one of those angel statues and the wings were right behind her.
Yeah, and she was wearing like a beautiful blue thing and it was very royal kind of, and the wings coming out from behind her.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that before because I was focused on what was being said, but very cool image. And one of the things, going back to kind of the images and the cinematography of it all, I love that they didn't overly call our attention to things. There would be moments where the camera would move past and there would be something moving in the background or something sinister lurking that they didn't go, meh, and show us and then move on. It was just a pan.
There it is.
Because we're following the character. We're not following the stuff happening around the character. We're, and we'd stay with the character. And then the one jump scare, which I mentioned in the non-spoiler section, where Nell jumps out from between Cheryl and Theo when they're in the car and they're driving, and it's her sound, but there's no musical what or whatever like they normally do for those. Yeah, and no build up of music to get you there,
or
to where it's
you
just
don't even expect it. Like jump scares, you always expect.
But the build up is happening in the dialogue. Those two sisters are arguing, they're fighting.
Yeah.
And I think it harkens back to when Steve and his dad were fighting and the casket fell over.
Yeah.
Nell is reacting to, I want you together.
Yeah.
And you're not together.
Yeah.
And I think it was just these sort of, not that she's in complete control of herself in that form, but she's just reacting to the stress and the anxiety of, you need to come together if you're going to make it through this thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she's able to help them do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it was, just seeing the last episode, so I guess we're getting there.
Sure.
there's still no resolution as to why the house is evil. You just need to accept that it is, and it takes people in, and if somebody dies there, they're there, and they're there forever. Basically, is what I took away from that, and so you just need to accept that to continue on with that episode. But it was just seeing the number of people that were there, and I guess.
That last shot as Steve is walking out.
Yeah.
We see more people in that shot than
we
ever saw in the course of the series.
Yeah. So there were a lot
full
of people,
place. Yeah,
a lot of people dead there.
They don't walk alone.
Yeah.
As he said.
Yeah.
The thing that stood out to me about that final episode, which there were elements of it that I've seen before and other things. Certainly, people in a dream state or experiencing something and then waking up. It wasn't too far from the Buffy dream episode. Which was called.
Oh gosh.
I don't remember what that was called.
It was
into season 4.
Yes, Restless.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. So there were bits of it that reminded me of that just because of the notion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But having Nell be the one to kind of free them from those nightmares was great, and also I thought it was great that when she comes into the room, when they see her, when Luke points her out, she saved me. Mm-hmm. And they turn and see her.
They all see her.
And they all see her for the first time. And she's not looking scary, as she has. She's not looking like the Ben lady. She's looking like their sister. But she's talking out of sequence. I just spit across the table. She's talking out of sequence. And I didn't catch that the first time. I was like, what is she saying? I don't understand. What is she doing? And then it slowly, I think the second time I watched it through, because I remembered the full context of the conversation from the first time I watched it through, I got that she's actually replying to them before they ask the questions or say certain things, and then she loops through it again, and then everything's synced.
Yeah.
But it's like she's out of time with everything, and time doesn't mean anything for her. And then Olivia says that too. That there was no today, tomorrow. There was no now or then. It was just here always. I was always here. Mm-hmm. And so you got that sort of. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need it.
No.
But it was a cool touch to feel how detached she felt from everything by that point. Mm-hmm. And how, so that you didn't lose sight of the fact that she's a ghost at this point.
Yeah.
But that her love for her siblings ground her to that moment, or bound her to that moment, so that she could say those things. And then as soon as she had said what she needed to say, she was gone again.
Mm-hmm. And they were able to go.
Yeah. And I loved that. I loved everything that she said, too. I loved that she was able to give them peace about how they left things with her.
Mm-hmm. I love that room, because we got the notion that the house was huge, that every time we saw different rooms, that we just assumed they were different rooms, but
so
it
many
was
of them were the red room.
The same room. And it was like when I first saw the one with Theo dancing to the music video and the girls were trying out that last key, I was like, wait, what? How did they...
How did she get in the red room?
Yeah,
that's the initial
it was really cool. It was a great reveal.
But then when Nell says that and we see the room, then you can even notice that the structure of the room is the same. That the lines of the room are the same.
Yeah.
It's just that the decoration, the way that it looked, was different each time. Mm-hmm. And high marks to them for pulling that off.
Yes.
So well done.
Mm-hmm. I also love that we really did assume that Abigail was just an imaginary friend every time, every single time.
From the moment he sees her, Luke saw her and waved at her across the thing. You were just like, oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, creepy.
You assume that she's a ghost.
Yeah, something. And then we find out, no, very much not. And it was like, but the thing is, you don't suspect it because we don't really hear about her until like the episode before, and then, and only then, like when we see her as a real person, like.
And I think that lines up with the fact that the Dudleys were afraid of that house and afraid of what went on there, and they said they kept her to themselves. They kept her in the house. They kept her away from the world, which is why they were able to cover that up.
Yeah.
But then, by the time all this has taken place and you've reached the end of the journey with these characters, Especially when Steve goes back in with his dad after the sisters have left with Luke.
Oh my gosh!
And you
yeah,
and you find that he gave his own life so that she would let them go.
So he could stay. He promised to stay with her forever. So if the kids were allowed to leave.
Right. So, but before that, when you're watching what happened during those 3 hours that the police kept asking Hugh about, and you find out that she was the Dudleys, that Abigail was the Dudleys' daughter, and you find out, you hear the conversation between he and them, you realize why he was out of his children's life for so long. He says it to her, that I was holding the door closed. I was keeping this place. You know, as far as they were concerned, they didn't even know their dad still owned that house.
Did they?
I don't know.
I feel like they did. I don't know. Maybe they did or didn't, but I think they did.
But the notion that he was keeping that place there and whole, and keeping the Dudleys on so that they could be with their child, says a lot about him. But also him saying it's dangerous, you know, like he understood their need for it, but he also didn't want anybody else to suffer that fate. And Mrs. Dudley even said, don't let this place take anyone else, let it starve. And so that's what he had given his life to, was keeping his children away from that place and keeping other people away from that place. And all of that, and that's what that's kind of his legacy that he leaves to Steve, is this place and the promise are yours now. Which is kind of a sad thing to leave.
Yeah, it's a heavy burden to give his son. And you see him when he's younger, all he wants to do is help. He wants to be, the big man that's helping his father out. And then he steps away from that and still winds up having it handed to him. So it's kind of a full circle there as well. So I thought that was really cool, but also really sad also.
Yeah. I love little character things too, like Nell getting words wrong. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
Not always wrong. Not always intentionally wrong. Or not always wrong, but sometimes she meant what she said, even if it sounded wrong. I like that. I like the fact that even though Steve struggled with being a good brother, that we saw him try, even when he was bad at it. There were times that he really tried. You know, he wanted to be strong for Luke. He wanted to walk Luke down there, and then he was the one that had the panic when he walked down to see Nell's body. Like, he wasn't ready for it. He wasn't as ready as he thought he was. He wasn't as strong as he thought he was.
Yeah, you didn't expect him as a big brother to be the one with the panic attack.
Yeah. And all of the characterizations, if any one of them had been off, it would have lessened the story, and everybody was just, like we said, just on their A game and bringing their all to it, and it really made for good viewing, even in episodes where the focus wasn't on the scare or the just the family dynamic itself was so good all the way through. So as we did in our non-spoiler review, we highly recommend that you check out The Haunting of Hill House if you haven't already. We hope if you watched the spoiler review that means that you have watched it already. Let's keep comments down below spoiler free for right now. Give people a chance to see it.
Or put a warning.
or put a warning. But yeah, we would definitely like to know what you thought about it. And if you thought it was as good as we did. Again, I made the mistake of finishing this, and then I tried to jump into The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, because we'd reacted to that trailer as well. It was not my cup of tea, folks. And
bonus review. I didn't even watch it.
but it made The Haunting. It was such a stark contrast. It was like I just watched a really well done thing. And what boggles my mind is that in comments for a review that I watched of Sabrina, somebody was like, I thought this was so good, and I tried to watch The Haunting of Hill House. It was so boring, and I was like,
different strokes, folks. Different strokes.
Yeah. Different strokes for sure, but I just cannot imagine finding that Sabrina show the better quality storytelling.
Different strokes, folks.
It's a CW show.
Yeah.
Really. It's a CW show that got ported to Netflix. It's not the same quality at all. But, I'm not into Sabrina, so that's fine. I gave it a shot. I actually really wanted to like it because it seemed nice and dark, and it was a little too...
Yeah. Bonus
too
review.
much. It was a little over the top for me. But anyway, that's fine. Definitely check out The Haunting of Hill House. Hopefully, if you do, and the numbers are good, maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll give us a different era of Hill House in a new season, or maybe they'll...
Well, I mean, they did allude to, not allude, but I mean, the oldest brother was a writer, so perhaps we may see some of his other books and follow those people's stories, perhaps.
Maybe, because he may have written them off as fake, and there may have been something to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be interesting as well. And certainly if this showrunner and you know, the people working this show behind the scenes were to do another season, I would definitely want to check it out, because it was really well done.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, those are our thoughts for now. Jump into the comments below and let us know what you think down there. And if you like this video,
hit the thumbs up.
And consider subscribing to the channel. We're real close to 200 now, which is tiny, 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 but
it's exciting to
love
us.
doing what we do. So yeah, it's exciting to us. We celebrate a little bit every time. I'll text Heidi at work sometimes, hey, we hit 194. Yeah. So anyway, consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you have, make sure you hit the bell icon so you don't miss things like this when they drop. And be sure and check back soon, because we're going to do that Daredevil Season 3 review next. And we'll do it kind of like this, where we do non-spoiler and spoiler.
Yep.
Anyway, until next time, folks.
Bye.
Bye.